Welcome back to Chapter 2 of Class 12 History, Political and Economic History. Now, after the Rig-Vedic period, in the 6th century BC, in the ancient period, the 6th century BC is a turning point in the history of India. In this particular period, India witnessed the rise of early states, the emergence of Jainism and Buddhism, the growth of iron, and the development of coinage, and the development of So 6th century BC is an important era in the ancient period. Now, let us move on to the rise of early states. So in the 6th century BC, we have already seen that early states emerged in India, and during this period, in India, there are 16 Mahajanapadas. There are 16 great kingdoms. It means great kingdoms. Now, these 16 Mahajanapadas, they are constantly fighting each other. Some example of these kingdoms are Magadha, Avanti, Vatsa, Kosala, etc. So these are the 4 most powerful states. Among these 4 most powerful states, Magadha became the most powerful. Magadha subjugated all these 16 Mahajanapadas, and he built the first empire in India that is known as the Magadha Empire. Some of the rulers of this Magadha Empire are, number 1, Bimbisara, number 2, Ajatasattu, number 3, Mahapadma Nanda. Now let us see why Magadha rose to power. The causes, there are various reasons for the rise of Magadha as the most powerful states among the 16 Mahajanapadas. The first reason is the hills surrounding Magadha it acts as a natural defense. Number 2, the land are fertile and yield much harvest. Number 3, the Ganga provides facilities for trade and commerce. Number 4, the accessibility of iron and other raw materials give advantage for making tools and weapons. So these are the 4 reasons why Magadha rose to power. The hills surrounding the hills that surrounds Magadha, it acts as a natural defense. The land are fertile and they yielded much harvest, which makes the people self-sufficient. And the river Ganga facilitates trade and commerce. Then the accessibility of iron and other raw materials, which help them to make tools and weapons. Note the first capital of Magadha is Rajgir. Magadha is in Bihar. So you might be asked the locations of Magadha. Let us suppose this is India map. Here is Bihar. Let's move on to Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya defeated the last Nanda rulers, Mahapadma Nanda, in 321 BC, and he founded the Mauryan Empire. So the founder of Mauryan Empire is Chandragupta Maurya. Now, important rulers of this Mauryan dynasty are: number 1, Chandragupta Maurya; number 2, Bindusara, and number 3, Asuka. So let us see the sources of Mauryan Empire. The first important source of the Mauryan Empire is Megasthenes' book Indica. Megasthenes was the Greek philosophers who stayed in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Then we have Kautilya's book Arthasastra. This is an important book. Then we have the Buddhist and Jain texts, Asoka pillar rock inscriptions, and Junagadh rock inscriptions of Rudradraman. These are some of the important sources of the Mauryan dynasty. Let us study the story of Asoka in brief. Now, Asoka is the greatest ruler of the Mauryan dynasty, and when he first came to power, he ruled with the policy of conquest by his military might. But after the war of Kalinga, he changed his mind. The bloodshed caused by the war of Kalinga, the killing of the innocent people, the loss of property made him to change his mind, and he vowed not to resort to war and change his policy of conquest. This policy of conquest through Dhamma that means the policy of conquest through propagations of Dhamma is known as Dharma Vijaya. Now, Asuka is regarded as the first ruler who inscribed inscriptions or who inscribed messages on stone, pillars, and rocks. What is Asoka Dhamma? Dhamma means law of piety. Piety is devotion. Asoka felt that his people could not be really happy until and unless they possess high moral characters. So, possession of high moral characters is one of the most important aspects for a person to attain true happiness. So he propagated an ethics which is very common to all religion, which is known as Dhamma. And his Dhamma includes respects for elders, religious tolerance, helping the poor people, ahimsa, etc. We move on to Mauryan administration. The Mauryan administration is divided into three. Number one, the central, the provincial, the local. The central administration, the provincial administration, and the local administration. When we say the provincial, it means the state, local means the district. At the central level, the king is the supreme head of the state. He is the supreme head of the state. His power is unlimited. He is the lawgiver. He is the supreme commander. He is the supreme judge, and he is the chief of the. He is the chief executive. Now, the central administration is assisted by two ministers. Number one, mantris, and number two, amityas. The mantris are senior officers who act as an advisors to the king. Whereas the mantris, they are the executive officers who are in charge of the various departments. They are the who are in charge of various departments. We move on to the provincial administrations. For administrative purpose, the province are divided into 5 districts. And each district is headed by governor. And the governors are known as Kumara. Local administrations. The province is divided into districts, and districts are known as janpads. So the districts are taken care by 3 important personalities: Pradeshika, they are the heads of the various departments; Rajukta, they are in charge of revenue collections; Yukta, subordinates; they are the subordinates to Pradeshika and Rajukta. And the local administration is divided into cities and villages. Let us see the local administration in the cities. Cities are divided into number of wards, and each ward is headed by superintendent. And the cities, they have their own court of justice. The village is the smallest unit of polity, and it is headed by Gramini. The head of the village is Gramini, and he is assisted by Council of Elders. But the work of the village is mostly done by Gopa. His responsibilities is to maintain the administrative records, to look into the matter of irrigations, the road conditions of the village, etc. Let us move on to the Mauryan military system. The Mauryan, in fact, established a very vast empire with the help of powerful armies. The armies was the mainstay of the Mauryan Empire, and their armies are organized in a very efficient way. Now, Coutillius mentioned three types of armies. The armies who are hereditary fighting class, number one. Number two, the mercenaries who fights for the government. And number three, the artisans. And the fighting force of the Mauryan government consists of 60,000 infantry, 3,000 chariots, horsemen, 9,000 elephants. The commander-in-chief took control of the army administrations, and the Mauryan military has the infantry, they have the cavalry, the chariots, elephants, transport, and shipping. So these are the various aspects of the Mauryan military system. The soldiers are paid in salaries in cash, and they are paid efficiently in a regular basis. Now, another important aspect of the military system is the espionage. The espionage, or the spy, sending out spies. The espionage system of Mauryan Empire was elaborate and very efficient. The king appointed a large number of tradesmen. It could be prostitutes, fortune tellers, birds. They were employed as spies. So this espionage system is the only means to keep the government informed about the state public's opinions. Economic life. Now, the stability of the Mauryan Empire and the vast administrative system depends upon the prosperity of agriculture, trade and commerce, etc. Now, the first important source of livelihood for the Mauryan people is agriculture. So agriculture was the main occupations of the people. In order to promote agriculture, they emphasize on irrigation. Not only this, a vast portion of land is being reclaimed for agricultural purposes. The second livelihood of the Mauryan people is animal husbandry. So besides agriculture, animal husbandry like cattle rearing, sheep, buffalo, etc., this remains the most lucrative job for the Mauryan people. The third is craft and industry. So the growth in trade and commerce led to the large-scale increase in the production of art and industry. Artisans and industries, small industries, form guilds. They form guilds, or guilds are organized group of they are organized group of tradesmen or craftsmen who possess an economic. So these craftsmen, the head of the small industries, they organize guilds for trade and commerce. Now these guilds, they are a group of organized craftsmen or traders who possess political and economic power. So this is all for today. We are going to continue this chapter in the next video. Thank you.